This episode of the only podcast about movies was recorded a lot differently, and in probably the most awesome way I can think of. We recorded it at this year's PAX West in Seattle in front of a live audience. So if you hear any anomalies, echoes, or perhaps a little bit extra pretension from a certain New Zealander we may know, please don't hold it against us. And also, we finally put all of our content in one place. You can see it all at onlymoviepodcast.com. You can get in touch with us. You can yell at me. You can yell at Shahir. You can request movies. You can subscribe to our SoundCloud or our iTunes. So it's all there. Please go there if you like what you hear. And with all that in mind, enjoy the show. What is up, Sphinx Theater? Ow! My name is Matthew Kroll.
Wait. I'm Shahir Dowd. These are awful. I don't know why you would wear these.
Those are $500 sunglasses, asshole. Anybody? No?
Anyone?
Mortal
No.
Kombat. Damn it! All right, and this is the only podcast about movies. Thank you so much for coming out to our first live podcast. This is super exciting for us.
Normally, the only live person in the room is Matt's cat, so this is a very exciting day.
This is an upgrade. And this is specifically getting good at video game movies. That is right. In this hour, we are going to fix Hollywood, people, and hopefully with your help. You don't know anyone but James here. So, again, my name is Matthew Kroll. This is Shahir Dowd. We do this podcast. We are film, video guys. You're a director.
I am a director.
I work in television, so I'm kind of like the bane of his existence. And then, of course, we have the wonderful Red Charyszyn over there.
Hello.
Who is the Hollywood VFX editor to The Stars.
Can you tell us who you work
Stars.
for? Is it a secret? Can we?
No, it's not a secret. I
Is it
just
Uwe
can't
Boll?
say his name. If you say it 3 times, he shows up.
Does it rhyme with Arbin Scorsese?
Yeah, it rhymes with Scorsese.
It rhymes
yeah.
with Scorsese.
And, of course, James, how you doing, buddy?
It's day one and I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
PAX.
But we're here at PAX, so I'm doing awesome.
Excellent. So, yeah, we basically, obviously, because we're all here, love video games, and we love movies, and why haven't, I mean, some might argue it has, but mostly, we have not ever had the perfect synergy yet of these two mediums. And I think we might have come up with some solutions.
Well, is everyone in agreement about that? Do we kind of agree that most video game movies are terrible? Because we've watched a lot in the last month in preparation for this panel.
I have suffered for you.
But is anyone? Are there any like super fans of Mortal Kombat Annihilation or?
Feel your animality, people.
Or the original Super Mario Brothers?
Ooh.
Oh.
Is there any film that people just like really love? Any video game movie? We're gonna talk about Silent Hill. We're gonna come to Silent Hill.
Huge discussion.
Yeah. What's that? Also animated. Yeah, it's that animated is a topic we didn't like go into too much, but we definitely touched on it.
And I did watch the Ratchet and Clank movie on the plane, so we can talk about it if we want to.
Yeah. But when we get into it, we're going to make a couple of assumptions. First off is, this is a personal one, but we always like to say this because we're very critical of filmmakers on this podcast.
Yeah.
But we try to do it with a little bit of love and a little bit of respect to say making movies is very hard. And so we understand when we're talking about films that aren't very good, we are still respecting the fact that these people made a film.
Even
Right.
though you don't sound like it.
What's that?
Even though you don't sound like it.
Yeah, no, okay. even if it is Super Mario Brothers. And we're definitely, what we're really focusing on today is the adaptation of video games to movie, not the other way around, which was initially how the video game industry converged with cinema, which was, we were talking earlier about video game adaptations of movies. So, the Batman movie came out and there was a game to go with it. The Spider-Man movie came out and there was a game to go with it. These are specifically of video game.
The E.T. movie came out and there was a video game with it.
You have
And
to dust
then
that
there
off.
wasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah. So,
and then just two more assumptions as well.
Shahir likes finishing things.
I like finishing things. One is the other one is that a work should stand on its own. So that's a big discussion point for us, I think, which is that a movie that, even though it's based on an adaptation of a video game, should stand on its own without having to understand what the video game is. Well, that's a talking point.
I heard someone say Warcraft out there. We'll get to that.
And I think we will touch on the financial incentive in some part. And
We all look to red.
Blame the machine.
And I'm just gonna like read out a quote that came out from the head of Ubisoft recently regarding the Assassin's Creed movie.
Women are impossible to animate.
Yeah.
The Assassin's Creed movie.
Oh, okay, sorry. Women are impossible to animate.
I remain silent.
Okay.
And this is what he said: "We are not going to earn a lot of money from it. It is going to be more of a marketing thing, and it's also good for the image of the brand. Although we will make some money, it is not the purpose of this movie. The purpose is to bring Assassin's Creed to more people. We have our core fans, but what we would like to put this franchise in front of a lot more people, maybe then who will pick up future Assassin's Creed games." He later retracted that statement, but I think that's an interesting point to bring up.
What is he saying?
He's saying it's going to suck, but that's okay because more people are going to see it.
Well, James, what do you think about? I mean, did you hear about this whole?
This is actually very often how, when we're talking about game movies and we're talking about licensing one of our properties to Hollywood, we talk about it as if it was marketing, and I think that's the first place things start to go wrong.
Yeah.
Because who wants to go watch 2.5 hours of marketing, right?
I mean that's the the interesting thing we were just talking about earlier as well. Is when we watched a lot of these movies, I think. I can't think of anyone on this panel, maybe anyone in this room, who would want to watch the movie over playing the game. Right?
And there's some bad games in there, and I still want to play the game more.
Yeah, I would rather. I would still, there was a lot of games I would rather play than watch these movies, and I'm not a big gamer. So and that is generally how it's approached. Or do people kind of come to you at any point and say, "Hey, this is an amazing story. I think it would make an amazing film"?
Unfortunately, because I mostly consult, so I don't get in a lot of these conversations, but in the ones I've been in, it's usually a much more business level thing before we even start talking story. We talk, okay, game has this amount of built-in install base, which equates to ticket sales. Okay, movie will get us this many new sales of the game, right? And that's where the conversation starts, and I don't think that ever makes good art.
Do the game development, like actually building the game, start that way?
So, depends. Video games is no longer the one monolithic thing it used to be. It sometimes starts that way when you're dealing with 70 to 100 person teams working in a major corporate environment like EA or Activision. Sometimes it doesn't, even in those environments, but there are plenty of times where, well, we have to make another Madden this year, right? Mm-hmm. Or another Assassin's Creed every year, year in, year out, whether or not that's going to be what we think is artistically best for the series.
Right.
So sometimes it does. But I think even in games, that's not where the good art is created. So
has there, before I know we need to
Yeah,
move on,
you're
but
so off topic.
But
Just listening.
But have there ever been like games created in that environment that you think have actually been worthwhile? Like, has there been a great Madden?
Oh, I think there have been. It's weird talking about Madden when we're talking about a very narrative-focused medium. Mm-hmm. Because there certainly have been great Maddens, right? It's not my particular cup of tea, but...
Definitely 07 was the one.
Oh, absolutely. I'm actually more the college ball series that they do, but...
I'm from New Zealand, so I don't even actually know what American football is. Yeah.
Actually, they had this great thing in the college ball one, where you actually had to take tests and keep up your grades, and I thought that was amazing.
What? So it was like Persona
See, I would love to
4.
see,
Right.
and I think that was
Madden. That's great.
that was translated into a movie. It was called Rudy.
But as far as like great things coming out of that environment, I would say that it's interesting because you've got this massive multidisciplinary thing where you don't have any individual artist who's responsible necessarily for any of these video game works, at least on that big level. But in cases where the team has really been pushing for something, right? Like if you ever read the story of how BioShock got made, that's a really expensive project, that's a big team. They fought like hell to make sure that thing got to be what it ended up being. But I would say in some ways it became it despite the environment that it was originally considered under.
Right, and that's an interesting one because that is a property that is hotly under development for feature film treatments and has gone through a number of directors. I think Gore Verbinski
Always a good sign.
was
Yeah.
the last one, and
Yeah,
then
you want to get the really good ones out of the way.
right.
Yeah.
Gore Verbinski, 50-50.
Yeah.
I love Rango.
Yeah, Rango, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so have we kind of determined that even if we were talking about a game like at this point like a AAA game or a major Hollywood film, that yes, we realize that money is the driving factor that sort of starts the wheels in motion. And what can we, I mean, as filmmakers or even game creators, what can be done knowing that that's the case, and to try to like, okay, yes, we're doing this as product, let's make it awesome anyway.
So actually think that the problem is not doing it as product, right? You look at the Batman films, right? Batmans are an adaptation of another medium that was done at a huge expense, right? By an enormous team, trying to sell tickets. But they cared about selling tickets, and they cared about people actually wanting to see the thing. Whereas a lot
We're
of
talking about the Christopher Nolan Batman.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I was assuming.
Not
Talking about
Batman v
Batman and
Superman, right?
that film doesn't
I
exist.
had totally assumed you were talking about Tim Burton for like the longest time.
I can also accept that,
Okay,
right? Any of the Batmans that, as I said, actually exist.
Yeah.
But so those films, right? It's clearly not a problem in adapting another medium. There are some unique things about video games that we're going to have to talk about, but it's also clearly not a problem of trying to make a profit out of it. But I think it is when the movie itself isn't the principal thing. If they were saying, "Oh, we're making Batman movies to sell more Batman comics," then that right there is the problem. That's what we're doing with video game movies.
Right.
That's like your step one, Matt.
That is almost step one. So, guys, I came up with the way we're going to fix this in roughly, 44 minutes.
All right.
3 things that Hollywood needs to do. And the first one, James, you dropped the C word. Care. We have to care, or the people making these things have to sort of care about cultivation. Figuring out what actual gaming properties would make a good movie. And in particular, latching on to the things that make the game great. And that doesn't necessarily mean story or character or anything like that. It has to be whatever the specific thing. It could be gameplay. It could be sort of the emotion it actually gives you.
I think Assassin's Creed could make a really good movie.
Do you?
Yeah.
And no one here has yet seen it. Has anyone seen it? No, I just didn't know if there's any people that got into screenings or something like that. Who here is worried about it? Yeah, and that's okay. For people listening at home, that's about half of the room. So if this incredibly popular franchise that people love the aesthetic, the characters, everything, but yet the people that they're trying to make this film for are terrified that it's going to be schlock,
So-
that's an issue.
Here's a secondary question. The people that are really worried about it and people who love Assassin's Creed, are you going to go see the movie? Regardless of initial reviews, are you all going to go see the movie anyway?
Yeah, obviously.
So I think that...
I mean, I do that. It's the whole thing everyone always talks about, also like voting with your wallet. And we all want to, we go in hoping for the best, but
I think that is impossible marketing to overcome, which is that if you
Right.
have a property like Assassin's Creed, which has a huge fan base, and you could pretty much just put people doing pantomime of that movie on the screen, people will go see it.
Well, there's another issue, which is, has anybody ever not bought the sequel to a game because a bad movie was made of that game? Like, nobody ever.
So there's no
Yeah.
detriment to making the movie.
Right, and the thing is, you love this, whatever this game is. Well, we're not making the movie for you. We're making the movie for people who haven't actually bought the game yet.
Right.
Because we want them to buy the game. So we're making it akin to the sort of action film or whatever that they know, just to drag them in. So it's not even about appealing to the people who actually love the thing itself, because we know there's no loss.
So and this is a kind of a broad topic that I would love to get into, which is that the thing, we've been talking about that kind of like as a negative in terms of like, you're only going to see the movie because you like the game, and we're trying to get the movie out so people will buy the game. Now, sometimes I actually don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing, because it's kind of like if Scott Fitzgerald when people were adapting his books.
Not to get too literate.
Well, when people were adapting his books, I think a journalist asked him, like, do you think that this has ruined your your books. And he was like, no, look, my books are still here. And I think the thing is that you do have to look at the game, at the movies as secondary, as purely marketing. And if it gets people to play the games, then that's probably a good thing. Like, for example, I think Arkham Asylum, the first Batman game, is the best Batman story that's been told in an audiovisual medium.
Sure.
You know, since the Tim Burton movies. And they're better than the Tim Burton movies. And I think that the fact that a video game has taken this character that we loved and done something really interesting with it and done it in a way that a movie couldn't do, I think is profoundly interesting as well. And it's something that, you know, like maybe we should look at it the other way around.
Okay, so dig in a little bit more, but define exactly what you mean by the other way around.
So we tend to think of movies have enjoyed a primacy in our culture as the you know, like video game culture. You know, you guys are at PAX. PAX is huge. It's great for everyone that's here, but it's not. You know, like the news talks more about box office receipts for a Hollywood movie than it does for video game receipts. Even though video game receipts can, I think, do outnumber, eclipse movies entirely.
I think GTA still the most bought piece of media ever, like in the history of ever.
But
has Minecraft surpassed it? Oh, well, there you go.
But do you think, like, the box office receipts the sales receipts for GTA and Minecraft will get talked about as much as the failure of Batman v Superman?
I mean, I don't think so.
No,
right? I think that because you also have this problem of we have a sort of popular culture where we know, and on the news, whatever, that you can rely on, that everyone goes sees movies, right? Mm-hmm. We're still not quite at the point where everybody plays games.
Yeah, we're not at the ubiquity of video game or games in general in our popular culture. You know, even though I mean, we have a huge console installed user base at this point.
Well, I mean, and even if you just look at especially like PC or tablet and smartphone, right?
Yeah, I mean,
like that's an enormous. But if you're looking to do a news story and you want to reach 100% of your audience rather than 75%, right? You do the story about movies.
Yeah.
So movies have enjoyed a kind of primacy in terms of our culture, and that's why we still talk about. That's why we're the only podcast about movies.
That's right. We looked for a good 5-10 minutes.
Yeah. We're not the only podcast about games.
No.
But with that in mind, video game movies are still terrible at this point, right? So we're all in agreement about that.
With a couple, I mean, I'm not going to go on record and say every video game movie is terrible. I personally, I love the first Mortal Kombat. I understand I understand there are flaws, but I can love a movie with flaws. I'm not a monster.
I believe it's worth it for the soundtrack alone.
Yes, the soundtrack, perfect.
I've always thought it's really weird. I feel like the guy who's shouting Mortal Kombat is like a dad whose son happens to be called Mortal Kombat, and he's just realized like
totally. Next time I see that film, I'm going to see it in a totally different way.
Every time he shouts it, I'm like, that guy has just realized his kids used up all the toilet paper or something like that.
But I mean, your point about primacy is interesting. What effect do you think it would have if you reverse that primacy, if you accept the fact that the video game property is primary in this equation? And to take again the comic parallel, does that happen with comics? Do we accept the comic as the primary medium over the film when creating a film?
So in the case of The Killing Joke, I think we might.
Yeah.
By mistake.
I have fears.
Oh, have you
High hopes, low expectations.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet?
No.
Okay. Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving
I like
on.
the person in the back with the thumbs down. I 100% agree.
We'll just don't spoil it for James.
That's too bad because I do really like the comic.
I mean,
And
I
so
think
I've-
Alan Moore is one of the greatest writers that ever lived in any media.
He's also occasionally one of the worst, but
to be
Fight.
continued.
Fight.
all right. But so in terms of what do you think the effect of flipping that primacy would? Let's say a Hollywood studio is willing to accept that the importance of the principal property, the game itself. What happens?
in a weird way, I think it would make video game movies. There's two things that could possibly, and these are the two things that could possibly happen. One is the video game movies will get worse because we'll care less.
Wait, are you about to tell me the two things that could possibly happen are that they will get worse?
Or they get better?
Because that's not an answer.
Your
No.
Well, that's it.
Well, and here's the Thank you. I'm available for consultation if you need it. No, but the other side of it is that as we discussed before, if we acknowledge that financial requirements aren't the reason to create a movie, then we can back off from that aspect, and it kind of becomes a little bit like creating the novelization of a film.
Which always works out well.
There have been some cases where the novelization has been.
Oh, sure.
And the one example that I'm going to
Escape
use
from New York. There is actually a novel.
And I'm told
it's wonderful.
I haven't read it, but I'm told the Catwoman novelization is really good.
No, this is a popular story.
If listeners at home, you could feel the air quotes hit that thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I wasn't reading the erotic fan fiction either. It was definitely the book.
Never mind. I'm not going to follow up that sentence.
We got nothing. Okay, next step.
Yeah.
I'm going to have us take a right turn, if that's okay with you.
No, please. Get us out of this.
So the thing I always find is really interesting is also the unique features of games that make them hard to translate to other media, mostly the interactivity, right? Because
That's the primary thing, yeah.
Right. Because, like, we talk about Silent Hill, and I agree with all you guys who said, oh, Silent Hill is one of the best video game movies out there, right? I still don't think it's anywhere near as powerful as, say, Silent Hill 2. And a lot of that's because you lose the pieces of the narrative in Silent Hill 2 that were told through the interaction. You don't get that sense of fear that you get out of having terrible fight mechanics, so the way every monster you ever come up against is going to rip you apart.
Right. Yeah. Terrible fight mechanics and terrible dialogue where they say people's names back and forth in a sentence really unnaturally do not do the same thing for the emotional response for a film.
And it's interesting as well because
Rose.
There's this whole renaissance of indie games that are becoming more cinematic. And the thing that I was thinking about, because I just played Firewatch, was that I'm curious. I kind of think Firewatch might make a terrible film.
I think that's true. For me, I was just thinking about Papers, Please, right? And Papers, Please makes a brilliantly awful film. Right?
But it makes a brilliant game.
Right. Oh, it makes an astounding game.
Yeah. Same with Firewatch. I think Firewatch is an amazing game.
Well, I'm going to just be a contrarian here because I was thinking about it, and at first I was like 100%, yes, I agree. But if you take Papers, Please, or you take Firewatch, something... I'm going to reverse this too. Something that...
You're going to do what I just did?
Yep.
One on one side, one on... Hit your bits?
No. So the only way something like that would work is the fact that it is sort of a little bit more minimal than, let's say, a Tomb Raider. Like they had to make a plot with Lara Croft and all that stuff. So if given to the right hands, you could make a very engaging Papers, Please film.
So, I mean, as soon as I thought about it, I thought about the amazingly avant-garde, like, you just have one film, one camera in a box, and you just have people coming in and having a conversation for an hour and a half, right?
But there would
it could be genius.
There would have to be, like, some real balls on the Hollywood sort of system to be like, oh, yeah, we're going to release a one-shot movie about this border crossing for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And you'd have to trust that someone can actually make it good. And I'm sure someone could, but again, it's like it's hedging your bets because when you're spending all this money and advertising and etc., you want to try to make it's too many cooks at that point. It's just you want to make it for the most amount of people, and then it sort of falls apart. But then again, it's funny. I was like, oh yeah, I agree with my point, and then I was like, but then the Tetris movie's coming out.
Well, that's gonna be glorious.
Now,
trilogy, Tetris trilogy.
The
I'm
Tetris
told.
trilogy. Have you guys not
heard
about the Tetris movie that's been in development and is like going to become a huge trilogy?
Yeah. Yeah.
The only way you can beat this bully and get a girlfriend is in the World Championship.
Spoiler alert, man! All these people, they're not going to go see the movie anymore.
Wait, are you serious right now? Like this is actually the plot, or are you just?
Karate Kid plot.
He's just said the Karate Kid plot for if you can't hear it at home.
You work in development, don't you? I'm pretty sure I've seen you before.
Sign this man.
Well, I was just thinking about the montage, like training montages for Tetris. It's so good.
Yeah. But
I think the bigger point, if I'm going to interrupt you here for a moment.
Ooh, please do.
Is that film relies a lot on voyeurism. Okay. Now, the only way we're going to be emotionally impacted through the film conventions
In
is
Tetris.
if we, in any film even, beyond the glory of Tetris, is if we, empathize, right? We rely on empathy and watching. That's why the Papers, Please idea is actually kind of brilliant, because that's POV will be the only way we're going to be able to empathize. Games, on the other hand, don't always have the limitation of voyeurism only.
Right.
So it's really interesting because the empathy formed in games is actually from you, just to the smallest degree, stepping into the shoes of someone else, right?
Yes.
Living a life that you couldn't otherwise live. And we don't get that, right? How do you translate that?
But movies do that, just not the video game movies that we're talking about.
Yes,
Like,
but
I mean,
the question is,
like, for example, the
mechanic
movie
through which
Room.
it does that.
Like the movie Room recently is an incredibly empathetic film about a situation that none of us could experience.
you
guys know
empathize
that they
with
do nothing
those
but
characters.
spoil movies, right?
You were okay. All right. I'm just making sure.
I'm not going to say what the movie is about, but there's a scene in that movie where I am on the edge of my seat and I'm just trying to figure out what. And everyone knows what scene I'm talking about, right? Everyone knows exactly.
Who's seen that? Yeah.
Yeah. There's a scene in that movie which is incredibly. I guess the word is engagement. Like it's incredibly engaging, and we're shifting from what was the main character to a secondary character, and the film does that so well. Now, theoretically, if we understood what that was in a video game, like if we understood why we empathize with the character in Silent Hill, apart from the fact that we can control his movements.
I think that's a huge part of it, though.
And I do. I mean, I think that it's the fact that you're living through it. It's interesting because the example you give, you're empathizing with that character in the screen rather than developing empathy for people who are living that experience by living it yourself, right? How many of you guys played Heavy Rain? So we got a couple, right?
Nice.
So, regardless of what I think of that game overall, you guys all know the scene where you are going to have to chop off your own hand, right? In that moment,
Spoilers.
You're not necessarily the great thing about a game is you don't necessarily have to do any of these things, right? Like
Yeah.
the spoiler isn't necessarily a spoiler for everyone, but in that moment, you feel a fear for yourself. You don't necessarily feel a fear for the character on the screen, and then you develop empathy for anyone ever put in that situation rather than for the specific character, because it's actually hard to do that, right? To go through that with that moment.
The movie that I'm thinking of that manages to capture that same experience is Saw.
So Saw, I felt revulsion for what people had to do, and I had to felt empathy for the characters within it, but I never felt fear for myself.
Right.
Right? And I think it's weird, but I think it's actually a fundamentally different way of building empathy, to force you to live through the Saw trap than to watch someone go through the Saw trap.
Because in the game, you caused basically through the actions you've been going through, you caused this to happen. In the movie, it's gonna happen.
So
As a movie, you are forced to watch what happens. There is no possible influence.
No, but I think the power of great cinema is getting the audience into that person's head. That is what
Yes,
good
I
filmmaking.
good filmmaking.
Good filmmaking does. It's actually get us to like make those choices. So, for example, another one I'm thinking about is the scene in No Country for Old Men where he's being chased by a dog. And the thing that I'm thinking about there is like, what would I do in this situation? How am I, like once I get across the water, what am I going to do? How am I going to react when the dog, like, is the dog still coming at me? And like my ability to like engage with, now that just might be because I'm passionate about movies, and that's the medium that I'm most compelled by. But I think great cinema can do that. Mm-hmm. I just don't see how the Prince of Persia movie gets me to feel that way about that character.
He has a dagger, and it's full of sand, and it controls time. I don't understand what the problem is.
And there's Persian Jake Gyllenhaal.
Okay, let's not even get into that. Well, I mean,
brown guy. I just gotta say it.
Well, I mean, is this might kind of, sort of, if I can veer it into my second step of caring.
I thought
step
that was your
two.
first step.
No, they all have to do with caring, Sheer. Did you not read the notes?
Sorry, I didn't get the memo. Actually, I did. It's here.
Yeah, it's right there.
Sorry.
No, it's caring about storytelling, and not only what the story is, but like basically how it's told or what you decide to adapt from the video game property. For instance,
The Warcraft problem.
the Warcraft
Right.
problem. Who saw the Warcraft movie in this room? A lot of people.
Who plays Warcraft?
Who plays Warcraft? Similar.
It was actually about the same people. I think,
Right.
Went and saw the movie and played the game.
And let's see. How can I do this audibly? Who really liked the Warcraft movie? Make some noise. All right. No. And I think there's a slight. Well, there's a slight. Apparently, there's a larger problem because I went into that film wanting to love it, and I know I'm glad it made bank in China, and it's going to hopefully find legs in other places, et cetera, et cetera. But I went in, and that was just like, for me, a break in storytelling. It was a lore dump, and I saw a lot of characters I liked, but it wasn't told to me in a compelling way. They didn't know what to take. They tried to take it all.
And I mean, I think that's exactly the problem. As a designer, when working on a game of that size, my expectation is for you to see all the lore in World of Warcraft. I can expect that you and I have had this conversation for 200 hours, right?
Right.
I've gotten 200 hours with you. You can't put it into 2 hours. You could do an amazing set with just one of those branches. You could do one quest in World of Warcraft and have it be plenty for an entire film.
Well, you even brought up like they could, whether you like or hate. I know Shahir personally hates this model, but the Marvel model, you could take Warcraft and just do the fundamental awesome bits of either quest lines or storylines that we all love who play the game, and you could make a beautiful interbranching, just locked system of films. But instead, they messed it up. So I think there's something that needs to be sort of cultivated from that as to what are we taking from the stories of these games and what should we sort of leave out or save for later?
Yeah, I think that the leaving out part is kind of one of the cruxes that I would like to think about. Is that I don't think, like you said, you don't have to do the entire film, the entire game. And I think, look, I always believe in putting a good film comes out of a good filmmaker with a good story to tell. That's pretty much it.
Sure.
That's what you need to.
Or by your own logic, if it's bad, then they're not.
Let me think about that. The math adds up.
Yep.
I think. Okay.
Sorry.
But I think the thing that I would love to see and I'd be curious about is a filmmaker getting a sense of what the property is and then throwing everything they know about it away and starting something afresh that captures the spirit of it. So, and the reason I think about that is let's the movie There Will Be Blood, based on Upton Sinclair's novel Oil, but based on a very, 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 very small part of that novel, to the point where it's almost unrecognizable from that novel.
Well, I mean, we were talking about Blade Runner earlier before you all got in here, right? And I don't know if you've read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. The Blade Runner movie, while is an incredible movie, it's basically nothing, very, very little to do with the actual story it's based off.
Very few sheep in that movie.
Correct.
I'm from New Zealand, and that's a
That
big
is
deal for me.
Yeah, okay. I could just see little you so disappointed.
I was like, where are the fucking sheep?
So what are we saying? Are we saying that's a slippery slope, man? Because
I think though that it is one of the. I think a smart filmmaker can take a property and figure out what is the essence of this property.
Give them their Hitchcock quote that you like so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
he quoted himself quoting Hitchcock earlier.
Did I quote myself quoting Hitchcock?
Red
Yeah,
Bandit.
in your outline. It was kind of cute.
I think it's because I lost the quote. So I just pretended I
It's
said
an
it.
important quote. It's a good idea.
It's a good quote.
It's an idea about, there's so much talk about world building, especially when you come to places like this. We want to build these large worlds that you can kind of wander over continually, and there's just tons of content, and there's lore everywhere. In a film, you have to remove a lot of that and use the mise en scène and other visual and audio cues to build whatever world may exist. Like if you look at I don't know, I'm just going to use The Boss here. Taxi Driver, for instance. You don't need to know about the rest of New York. You know it's a pretty crappy place.
Yeah.
Right? You don't need to know about the fight that happened at Columbus Circle where some guy killed another guy and that's why everybody's all upset above 59th Street. You just kind of know that in the movie, and I think that is a big thing.
Well, it's really interesting because this is actually something that I wanted to get to, because how many of you guys have played any of the From Software games? Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Bloodborne? Yeah.
You're good people.
These are amazing games, and these have amazing narratives in them. But all of this narrative just inheres within the world. And I'm not sure, because once again, we have this expectation that you're going to be playing that game for 40 plus hours, so you're going to notice these things, right? And you're going to see the way these little pieces are tied together, whether it be in the environment or a line of text about an item. And I don't know how we translate that to film, because we just don't have the same amount of time.
Yeah, it's a different
And so what you would need to do is strip away what we understand about that narrative and try to craft a story.
But at the same time, you get really excited by certain things, and you really want to keep it in
it's
the movie.
it's the reason why Silent Hill looks so much like the game.
Right.
You know, like Silent Hill captures the mechanic of the game really well.
I think it captures
with the
aesthetic.
The aesthetic. No,
Yes,
you're right.
aesthetic,
Yeah,
not
the
the
aesthetic of the
mechanic.
game.
Yeah, different word.
Yeah,
Totally
it is
different
true.
meaning.
Yeah.
Well, guys, that kind of brings me to my third caring.
Oh, all right, let's do it.
It was caring about caring, but not caring too much.
Wait, so hold on.
No, just follow me. Go down the rabbit hole.
All right, hang on.
No, but that's basically what we're saying. We
Come to PAX, you'll have a good time, you'll meet people. That's what they say.
just fly them out here. No,
Actually, this is the Hitchcock quote would actually apply right
then
here.
say it. Read the
So I think
quote.
the quote was,
Quoted by Shahir Dowd.
No, this is quoted by Hitchcock, who I would like to compare myself to. What I do is to read a story only once, and if I like the basic idea, I just forget all about the book and start to create cinema. Today, I would be unable to tell you the story of Daphne du Maurier's The Birds. I read it only once, very quickly at that. And it's the idea that you just get the. I mean, film, like you said, it's 2 hours versus 200 hours. So you can only get the touchstone idea.
So I'm not necessarily going to disagree, but I will disagree that that's the only way.
No, I agree. It's not the only way to do it, but I think it's something that in the films we've watched, it's something that none of these films have done.
You know, okay, I'm going to be a jerk here for a minute and mention explicitly a film that I like, and don't be angry at me. Resident Evil. Okay? I think
A mixed
I feel like I'm
crowd.
running for president right now. I feel very much.
This is gonna be
that
huge.
This film is so successful because it takes my Resident Evil world that I kind of knew of playing, but throws out all the characters and makes an amalgamation of the moments that I like, and I get to experience it for the first time as an audience member again. And I'm like, okay, great, that's my Hound moment. But when you think about the movie itself, the movie is basically nothing at all like the original games, and only later on do the games actually end up emulating the movie, which kind of suck. But the
They
point
made a
is,
lot
is
of
that,
money.
is
Yeah.
that the adaptation that they made there wasn't about specifics at all. It was about a general impression of the world.
Yeah.
And I think it was so successful, and they took all the favorite bits, stripped away any personality, and amalgamated it through one character.
And you're talking Alice, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I liked when the first Resident Evil came out. I was so mad that like Chris and Claire Redfield were not the main character. I was like, what the? But now having lived with that film, the first one and the multiple of sequels, we're getting the final chapter soon, I believe. Everybody. Yeah. There's like 6 of them.
They will never
And then
stop
we're getting
making
the reboot.
They will
then
never
reboots.
stop
Final
making this
chapter,
movie.
Then the reboot.
Yeah.
The Reckoning.
You'll probably get your 2 main characters.
But I like. Well, they've all showed up somewhere,
Yeah.
and I now seeing them as sequentially. I kind of like that. Oh, okay, Claire's in like 3 and 4 or like whatever, and like I just sort of like that now. Alice is traipsing around this world. She's the amalgamation, sort of as the player character in this environment. And I do get to see all the people. I get to see Wesker. I don't know. Have we seen Barry yet? I miss Barry. But no, so I 100% agree, Red. I think that is one of them that has done very well.
I just say in this adaptation, kind of
Right.
like taking the truth.
Yeah.
So, I have some answers for this, but one of the things that's always comes up as a question for me, though, is we talk a lot about caring, and a series that was clearly cared about a lot, like if you look at Final Fantasy The Spirits Within, they clearly cared. They did not succeed.
I love that movie
but they're still
so
trying.
much.
Still trying.
Yes, they haven't succeeded yet.
No.
One of the things I do want to stress is that just by handing it back to the game makers who theoretically care about this, that's not the solution. What do you feel like happened there that keeps us? Because I mean, if we were just to go by these 3 guidelines, I would say they should have succeeded, right? And yet we have one of the most colossal failures in video game history.
Are you suggesting that Matt's guidelines don't work?
Whoa. Yeah.
So I think one of the points
bold.
that
I'm suggesting that
sir.
they either work.
Well, Matt, actually,
or they don't work.
Matt, do you want to address the Final Fantasy question first, and then I've got something else.
And we're talking Spirits Within specifically?
Let's
or not
start
like
the-
Advent Children or the 15 movie that just dropped?
Let's start with Spirits Within,
Within.
because I think Spirits Within better adheres to your 3 guidelines than the other ones.
Spirit, yeah, I mean,
Why does Spirits Within not work?
Spirits Within, in my opinion, doesn't work because it. Again, it was one of sort of in this sort of pantheon of video game movies as they were coming out. It was the first one to just veer off left field from a world and story-wise. Like, yeah, you had someone named Sid, and they mentioned like a thing or two here or there. You saw a billboard that you might have seen in like Final Fantasy VII somewhere else. But other than that, it's a completely original story. Also set on Earth.
I think so.
Yeah, that broke me. So I don't know if it adheres to my 3 rules specifically, or if it does, it's sort of grabbing at the wrong things. It attempted to do something different and failed. And that is why I will respect it more than like a cookie cutter sort of like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of any of these.
Well, that was our first,
Yeah.
supposition here, is that we respect the fact that these films got made.
That was your first note. Yeah, so like, it's just, I'm glad it tried, and I'm glad it sort of, just decided not to go down the regular road of like, oh, and now it's going to be acts A, B, and C from this thing, and we're going to do this, and blah, blah, blah. And it would try to do something different. I just didn't like it, but maybe someone did, or maybe that opened up sort of the option to do that in a way. And maybe it's a gateway drug.
It's true. I really always wanted them to make a Final Fantasy VII film where in the end they just go Phoenix down to Aerith and it's all okay.
Yeah, I mean, that would be. I'm
That joke
surprised they haven't
went
done
way
that
over my
yet.
head.
Oh my God.
I'm playing to my audience.
Right.
Sorry, guys.
So wait. So let's make a point and then let's open it up to some questions.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think fundamentally the other reason is understanding that I think there's at times a real failure to understand the distinction about what cinema does versus what games do.
Yes.
And the
And
way
just really briefly, like in 3 words or less, can you do that?
interactivity versus emotion.
Okay, thank you.
Ooh,
That was
3 words.
Wow, well done.
look at the brain on
I
Shahir.
feel like that one, you put pressure on him. He performed.
Wow.
I mean, I do think that that's fundamentally the primary difference between cinema and video games. Now, that's not to say that they, in a Venn diagram, they don't overlap, because video games certainly generate emotion, and movies have some element of interactivity, if in some psychological engagement at least. But I think understanding that movies aren't video games. Like, and we don't approach a movie in the same way that we approach a video game. And, through a number of things that we've already discussed, such as the time that you get to play with the game, even just the ritual of going to see a movie is an entirely different psychological ritual to going to play a game. And then the second thing, I mean, good filmmakers. It does come down to like good filmmakers who are trying to further the art form,
Yes.
or create engaging stories.
The Mad Max scenario.
The Mad Max scenario.
While people line up for questions, because we probably should take some from the audience,
Yes.
because
People wanna
I
start
don't
doing
know
that
it well
now.
enough, were there any really good filmmakers who did video game films? Like, are there any filmmakers you guys really respect who did video games films that still fell apart?
So interestingly, I think
Filmmakers who were supposed to, that ended up backing out because they realized the challenge.
so. We got Gore Verbinski with the BioShock movie, which I think Spielberg was attached to the BioShock movie. I think, really interestingly, I don't love the Lara Croft movie for obvious reason, but Simon West, the director, directed Con Air, which I think is a really good example of what the Lara Croft movie could have been, but it wasn't.
Wait. I just asked, are there any filmmakers you really respect and you go, Con Air. All right, now I understand.
He's got the whole world in his hands.
No, listen. I will fight
listen
tooth
to
and
what
nail
it says.
for Con Air. I will always fight tooth and nail.
So
for Con
next
Air.
year we're doing a 1 a.m. panel called "What is the best film of all time and why is it Con Air?"
Why is
we
it Con Air?
could go all the way down.
Oh
the
yeah,
road.
we're gonna do this.
All right,
Well,
let's take
Field
some
us your
questions.
Con Air
Let's
questions,
start on this
please.
side real quick.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, good volume. One thing you guys didn't bring up was some films I've seen on Netflix, specifically with the Halo franchise, which are things like Forward Unto Dawn or Fall of Reach is one of the new ones, but that's kind of an animated version,
Right.
slightly animated. What do you guys think about those? Because I've seen them. I thought they were fantastic.
So it's funny. Forward Unto Dawn, I was hoping was going to come up because I do think it is one of the better examples.
Do you think that the financial impetus around those films is entirely different? It's a different equation than when like Peter Jackson was producing the Halo movies.
Well, I think that Forward Unto Dawn was genuinely made for people who love Halo.
Yes.
Not, as we talked about earlier, for reaching an audience that has no idea what this Halo thing is.
So it's kind of in a similar way, although it's not a great movie, but the Street Fighter animated movie, I think is an interesting example of a good respect for that property.
Whoa!
As opposed to the live action one, Shahir?
The Legend of Chun-Li didn't. I mean, I won't fight for the Legend of Chun-Li. Con Air all day.
I mean, it brings up a question because, like, who are they making like Forward Until Dawn and all this stuff for? Are they making it for us, the people that really enjoy like Halo? Is it made as a not an addendum, but like an additional piece of content for gamers? And if so, I think those films work incredibly well and they're super fun.
Right, but for Fall of Reach as well, that one's just straight pulled out of the book.
Right.
The novelization of it, and it's part of it. It's not the entire thing, but they do a very good job of sticking to the story for that one.
I'll confess I haven't actually seen Fall of Reach yet, so I might have to check this one
It's
out.
relatively new on Netflix.
I think you've brought up a point that we kind of probably haven't put in here, which is that we're primarily talking about large-scale adaptations for mainstream audiences.
Oh,
but
that's a cop-out.
no. I think that's what we've been focusing on. But what you brought up is that isn't the be-all and end-all, and there are better examples of adaptations of the material that are kind of left alone to their own devices, and they do produce really excellent work. I mean, you see this in the DC animated movies as well.
Yeah.
Like those are good adaptations. They're
Assault
better.
on Arkham is phenomenal.
Better than Batman v Superman. Or Suicide Squad is a better example.
This one is more different because it's not Hollywood, it's not that, but it's more popular now, especially with the crowd at PAX, which is Red versus Blue, based on the same thing. It started as a comedy,
gag. Yeah.
But watching the later seasons, they really have brought a story into it. And I'm wondering if the idea of just going off of a game and going completely away from what the game actually is, and even making it a different genre altogether of comedy versus some first-person shooter.
100%. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about, actually, Red and I were talking about this last night, where, okay, the Mario Brothers movie, we saw the clips of it when we started, and, it is what it is. But what if they didn't do a straight adaptation of the Mario movie? What if it actually, or the Mario games, like, what if it was like, Mario's already in the Mushroom Kingdom, and his marriage to Peach is on the rocks, and Luigi went back to Brooklyn, and he's sad because his brother's gone, so they're trying to set him up with Daisy, and they make this whole, like, random thing that takes place in the world. Like, that kind of thing, I think, and I think Red versus Blue does a very sort of similar thing. They take, the models and, the Spartans, and they have, they're like 15 different characters or so. I haven't seen it in a couple
Yeah.
Way
seasons.
more now.
It's-
By season 12, you've got
But I think that's a great point.
Yeah. And I think we're talking about something slightly different
Right.
to video game adaptation. We're talking about essentially in the way of fan fiction, but fan fiction that has actually evolved into something more interesting.
For making that wonderful point, I'm going to punish you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You
that's what
get
you for participating.
this. We mentioned it, so I figured it was appropriate. Please enjoy, or don't.
And for the rest of you, we don't have a DVD or Blu-ray for every single
No.
one, so make it count.
Let's do this side.
Oh, hey, what's up?
What's going on?
Yeah, not much.
Sweet.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Have any of you seen Hardcore Henry?
Yes.
We
Yeah,
reviewed
we
it
did
on
that
the
one.
podcast.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
No,
We
you don't
understand.
listen to us? What?
I'm listening to you today. Exactly. Yeah, so I guess Yeah, so you kind of know, but I feel like with Hardcore Henry, you're starting to see a lot of the narrative tropes and like structures from video games coming back and influencing films. Kind of in that same topic, like what do you think? It's a little bit like different than what we've been talking about, but what do you think films have to learn from video games, even being like completely separate properties? You know, not adaptations of in and of themselves, but like, yeah, what do they have to learn?
I think they have to learn. When you're like adapting a comic book or a novel, you're taking the story and you're taking the characters and you're trying to put it onto the screen. And that's a way of doing it. You can take the story and you can put it up there. What Hollywood needs to learn is kind of what we were talking about before, is integrating what makes a game feel like a game. Is it the mechanics? Is it the story? Is it there's more pieces to a video game that can be engaging, I feel like, from different angles, from the way people enjoy their media, than a straight adaptation of a novel or a comic. So they need to start looking a little bit sideways, I think. I think that's step one.
Well, and the opposite side is that I think games could learn a little bit from movies in terms of, I think one of the things that, the reason why video game adaptations tend to fail a little bit is that video games tend to do a bad job with dialogue, with conversation, with general, it's going to sound weird, but maturity. And I think Hardcore Henry is a good example of like a kind of a juvenile film. It's fun.
I liked it.
It's fun. I enjoyed it. I did get a headache after like 20 minutes of that movie, just because of like
whatever. You're old, Shahir.
I am old. But I think, and we're starting to see it a little bit with games like Firewatch, where there is kind of an attempt to do a story that would be closer to the emotional resonance of a novel. And I think that games could like the thing that I'm excited about is when a game does kind of reach people on that more profound level than an action,
right.
Than the death in Gears of War, which is kind of fun but superficial.
To ignore Shahir completely, God, it's so pretentious. Is that non-narrative structure?
This is exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. You say it.
No.
Guys.
So I was just going to talk about non-linear narratives.
I'm gonna nod my head.
Okay. Awesome. Because like the one thing that games are really good at, right, is a non-linear narrative structure, and very often films are very bad at that.
Wait a minute.
When they succeed, they're generally awesome, right?
Yeah.
Some of the best films I've ever seen have been films dealing in a very non-linear space.
Right.
But I think that's something that we have more to contribute in terms of the intellectual space and how to deal with it.
We could get more mementos.
Yeah, I mean,
yes, more Mr. Robot.
More Mr. Robot.
Right. So let's.
Sir. Now we gotta go.
Yeah. No,
you can defend on air.
Mr. Robot.
No, thank you very much for your question.
Thank you.
Let's. I guess we got what 5. Ooh, wow.
Lightning round.
Lightning round. Let's go.
So one thing you guys briefly touched on was the time frames between games that have 300 plus hours, stuff like that.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, most of the time with a bad campaign, you're sitting there with 7.
Right.
With movies going from comics and mangas and everything, a lot of times it's the opposite direction, where you're taking large amounts of content in very small volumes and adapting it in. Why do you think it's so difficult a lot of times to go the other direction versus taking things that have these huge narratives and cutting them into smaller pieces, like you're mentioning, and doing something similar to Marvel, where you're splitting things out in smaller storylines? Why do you see that filmmakers don't do stuff like that with Warcraft or Halo, where you've got all these different trilogies?
I mean, I think we're seeing a real, the golden era of television right now. So it'd be really interesting for a game to be adapted to a television show. I think that would be kind of a more logical step in a way.
The Legend of Zelda animated series.
Yeah.
Glory.
Excuse me, Shahir.
I'm sorry, I started.
She got it.
You do actually have a mic, but
We
Cool.
can't afford
Thank
to
you.
drop these.
Boom.
Thank you.
Okay. I love the conversation that you guys were having, but I just wanted to give you guys a different perspective.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Okay, so video games generally kind of relatively a new medium, right?
Yes.
Relatively.
Video game movies are an even newer medium. And the first paintings, for example, were just cave drawings of fire on a cave, right? And they weren't that good compared to the Mona Lisa, but they are.
This is the age of maturity. You're talking about art history.
We like Super Mario Bros. And Mortal Kombat. They are the cave paintings. They're historically important, I think.
But
You think Super Mario Brothers is important?
oh hell yeah, and just relative to Mona Lisa, right? Like
Here is your Mona Lisa. Super Mario Brothers DVD preview.
By the way, just,
Mona Lisa.
just so you
no,
know.
you bring up a good
Yeah.
point, and we can talk about it. But we gotta jump to the next thing.
We had a long conversation about the fact that I think that there is a generation coming up or here now where video games are almost going to usurp what cinema does.
Right.
And I think that will create hopefully better video game adaptations.
And then
All
we
right,
need-
we'll
All right,
continue this
we got
conversation.
one more real quick.
We'll try to get through a few, but
Yeah,
we got the
we
next
got
panel
people coming in
in
for the next one.
Down the line, you're tasked to create the Halo movie. Does Master Chief appear in your movie as the main character?
No.
I'm not a big Halo person.
Would the
so
main character from a video game appear in the movie about the video game? You probably should
Dude,
say
mine's totally a
I don't know.
transforming CGI warthog. That's the main
Right.
character in my Halo movie, totally.
So Michael Bay is directing your
Oh
Halo
yeah,
movie.
absolutely.
no. All right, yeah, I'd say no.
I'm curious what you guys think of the Angry Birds movie.
I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
But I love the game.
Game's great. All right, sorry, last one, then we're out.
All right. I got the secret that none of you guys said about fixing the video game movies.
Okay.
And that's the problem with Hollywood. Hollywood does not respect the material from the root. Example, the X-Men game made out of Capcom. If all these people were dressing just like that, and we have yellow Wolverine with big claws,
Didn't we get that in
you know,
the
doing
last
all the
X-Men
flight
movie?
and stuff. Hollywood is afraid of show you because everyone here, all of you guys, are children from the 90s,
God
from
bless.
the 80s. And all these people, they're trying to make for the new generation, for the 2000, the guys with leather, you know.
Right. I mean,
you could drop that mic, but you shouldn't.
and just speaking about people, this is the last thing I got for you guys. Speaking of films that people were afraid, without bringing up Uwe Boll in this conversation would be a problem.
Let's talk about
I think you
Uwe
should
Boll.
Yeah.
Dungeon Siege for you. Oh no, you're taking it.
Over here.
All right, last one. It's all good.
Speaking of 2000s, kids.
I love it.
Well, how old are you?
12.
Okay.
Awesome, dude.
What do you think of the 2005 Doom movie?
Oh, we showed a clip from it before.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you seen that movie?
No.
Good. I don't think you're
before
allowed.
his time.
No, I
Yeah.
don't think he's allowed to see it legally.
And also, they broke some mechanics, and they show the first person thing, but anyone who's played Doom knows it takes place with a portal in hell, and instead they made it into a mutant thingamajig.
Mars
thing.
colony, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or-
Well, it's still Portal in Hell in Mars.
Not in the movie. It's all biological.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
No. We were talking about.
Gotcha.
Never mind.
Who's gonna IMDb this first?
Don't see the movie. It's not worth it.
Right.
All right, guys. With that, sorry.
when
we're
you
going
get
a
old
little
enough, when you get old enough, watch Hardcore Henry.
Yes. Guys, thank you so
Con Air.
much.
Watch
We
Con
have
Air.
been the only podcast about
Thank you
movies,
guys, everybody.
and we have fixed Hollywood thanks to you people. Check us out. We're at onlymoviepodcast.com, and you can subscribe
And
there.
if anyone has more questions for us,
We'll be around.
We'll be around after this.
Thank you,
Thank you
guys.
so much.